today as we continue our 3-year journey through the Bible. As always, for a translation, I'm reading the Christian Standard Bible. We come to Exodus 34, which is my favorite chapter in the book of Exodus. It's a chapter where God describes himself, his character, his nature. And people often think of a misconception that the Old Testament God is an angry God, a God of wrath, a God looking to smite people, and then there's gentle Jesus, meek and mild, who is so different than Daddy, can calm him down and whatnot. But Jesus said, "He who has seen me has seen the Father," and so Jesus compares himself to the Father and basically describes himself like the Father. And here we get a glimpse of God describing himself. Exodus 34. The Lord said to Moses, "Cut 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I will write on them the words that were on the first tablets which you broke. Be prepared by morning. Come up Mount Sinai in the morning and stand before me on the mountain top. No one may go up with you. In fact, no one should be seen anywhere on the mountain. Even the flocks and herds are not to graze in front of the mountain." Moses cut 2 stone tablets like the first ones. He got up early in the morning, and taking the 2 stone tablets in his hand, he climbed Mount Sinai just as the Lord had commanded him. The Lord came down in a cloud, stood with him there, and proclaimed his name, the Lord. The Lord passed in front of him and proclaimed, "The Lord. The Lord is a compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, and abounding in faithful love and truth, maintaining faithful love to 1,000 generations, forgiving iniquity, rebellion, and sin. But he will not leave the guilty unpunished, bringing the father's iniquity on the children and grandchildren to the 3rd and 4th generation." Moses immediately knelt low on the ground and worshipped. Then he said, "My God, if I have indeed found favor with you, my Lord, please go with us. Even though this is a stiff-necked people, forgive our iniquity and our sin, and accept us as your own possession." And the Lord responded, "Look, I am making a covenant. I will perform wonders in the presence of all your people that have never been done in the whole earth or in any nation. All the people you live among will see the Lord's work, for what I am doing with you is awe-inspiring. Observe what I command you today. I'm going to drive out before you the Amorites, Canaanites, Hethites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Be careful not to make a treaty with the inhabitants of the land that you are going to enter, otherwise you will become a snare. They will become a snare among you. Instead, you must tear down their altars, smash their sacred pillars, and chop down their Asherah poles. Because the Lord is jealous for his reputation, you are never to bow down to another god. He is a jealous God. Do not make a treaty with the inhabitants of the land, or else, when they prostitute themselves with their gods and sacrifice to their gods, they will invite you, and you will eat their sacrifices. Then you will take some of their daughters as brides for your sons. Their daughters will prostitute themselves with their gods, and cause your sons to prostitute themselves with their gods. Do not make cast images of gods for yourselves. Observe the feast of unleavened bread. You are to eat unleavened bread for 7 days at the appointed time in the month of Abib, as I commanded you, for you came out of Egypt in the month of Abib. The firstborn male from every womb belongs to me, including all your male livestock, the firstborn of cattle or sheep. You may redeem the firstborn of a donkey with a sheep, but if you do not redeem it, break its neck. You must redeem all the firstborn of your sons. No one is to appear before me empty-handed. You are to labor 6 days, but you must rest on the 7th day. You must even rest during the plowing and harvesting times. Observe the festival of weeks with the first fruits of the wheat harvests, and the festival of ingathering at the turn of the agricultural year. 3 times a year all your males are to appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel, for I will drive out nations before you and enlarge your territory. No one will covet your land when you go up 3 times a year to appear before the Lord your God. Do not present the blood for my sacrifice with anything leavened. The sacrifice of the Passover festival must not remain until morning. Bring the best firstfruits of your land to the house of the Lord your God. You must not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. The Lord said to Moses, write down these words, for I have made a covenant with you and with Israel based on these words. Moses was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He did not eat food or drink water. He wrote the 10 Commandments, the words of the covenant, on the tablets. As Moses descended from Mount Sinai with 2 tablets of the testimony in his hands, he descended the mountain. He did not realize that the skin of his face shone as the result of his speaking with the Lord. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, the skin of his face shone. They were afraid to come near him, but Moses called out to them. So Aaron and all the leaders of the community returned to him, and Moses spoke to them. Afterward, all the Israelites came near, and he commanded them to do everything the Lord had told him on Mount Sinai. When Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil over his face. But whenever Moses went before the Lord to speak with him, he would remove the veil until he came out. After he came out, he would tell the Israelites what had been commanded, and the Israelites would see that Moses' face was radiant. Then Moses would put the veil over his face again until he went to speak with the Lord. Exodus chapter 34. That description God gives of himself, compassionate and gracious, and slow to anger, abounding in faithful love and truth, maintaining love to 1,000 generations, forgiving iniquity, rebellion, and sin. There's certain phrases in the Old Testament that are repetitive and show up many times. And I had really not noticed until a certain pastor, teacher, a guy that seemed to usually speak at conferences, pointed this description out of God the Father describing himself. And now I see it in several places in the Old Testament where that description comes up. Either God describing himself or his prophets describing him. And it's funny how our assumptions can get in the way, and just the breadth of what's in here can be overwhelming. But the more you read it, the more you see things, the more you're able to put things into compartments to help you categorize and think and see patterns and whatnot. But there's not really a lot of magic to reading the Bible, and magic's a terrible word to use. But in that sense, there's no magic. Of course, the Bible forbids sorcery, but there's no secret rules really to interpreting it. There's genres, and you need to understand what different genres are: poetry and narrative and didactic, letters. Apocalyptic literature is a unique kind of literature that you don't read in too many places, but in the Bible, and that is a category that gets people really mixed up because they apply rules to it that really are meant for other types of genres. But it's really not that hard to understand and to read this. It's just, I think you just got to do it more. The more you do it, the more clear things become. And this description of God, we're going to see it a lot. And I'll point it out when it does come up. It comes up several times in the Old Testament, but this is the first time that we see this description of the Lord being a compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in faithful love and truth, maintaining love to 1,000 generations, forgiving iniquity, rebellion and sin. And as I read that, doesn't that sound like Jesus to you? And the Father's the one who is being described here. I mean, actually, the whole Trinity, honestly, is being described, not just the Father, but and that's the truth. God loved the world in this way. He sent his one and only Son. It was the Father that initiated that. So he gets a bad rap. And as we read through the Bible together, I'd like to get that rap cleared up a little bit for those who follow along. Thank you for joining me. This is our reading for Saturday, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you on Sunday. Hope you have a great weekend. Take care. Bye.